There's something I've been feeling over the last few years every time I start a sim racing game, and maybe you have felt it too. It's something that I've mentioned in my I Love Assetto Corsa Rally video. I'll sit down, I'll fire up Gran Turismo, Forza, or Assetto Corsa, some game with a diverse roster of cars, and start flipping through those huge car lists with hundreds of cars, thousands if you are modding. And this strange feeling really hits me. It's a mix of excitement, nostalgia, and honestly a little sadness because I know where this is all going to go. The older the game, stuff like Gran Turismo 4 or 5, the bigger the hit. It's right on the feels. When you take a step back to appreciate what we have on the road, and I must tell you it's not very good, you start to realize just how many cars have disappeared. They are not with us anymore, or at very best, they are disappearing before our very eyes. They are not on the road, they are not on dealerships, not in the future plan of any manufacturers. Some were victims of regulations, some died because they could not get enough people to buy them, and others just couldn't survive a world that's shifting towards bigger, heavier, quieter transportation. And that's when it clicked for me. Sim racing has quietly become one of the last places where these cars truly live. Not as museum pieces behind ropes, not as static photos in an old brochure, but alive, they are drivable, and they have full personalities. Sim racing has become a digital automotive museum, and we're not just visitors, we're actually the ones keeping the engines running. Let me explain what I mean, but before going there, there's a massive thank you to all the members and subscribers. Without you, videos like these wouldn't be possible. If this video resonates with you, please leave a like and a sub, that helps a lot. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. It has been so long. Thank you so much. There was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when almost every manufacturer made at least one car just for the joy of it. A little hot hatch, a lightweight sports car, a compact coupe that made absolutely no financial sense, but existed because someone, somewhere in the company, insisted that cars should be fun. But over the past decades, everything started tightening. We have emission standards, noise regulations, taxes on engines displacement, insurance cost, and the biggest shift of them all, people stopped buying small cars altogether. Suddenly, everyone wanted crossovers, SUVs, big, stupidly unpractical, and manufacturers, being manufacturers, they go where the money is, followed that money, and it didn't matter how good something like Ford Fiesta ST was, if the sales weren't there, it had no future. It didn't matter that a car like the Renault Clio RS defined an entire generation of driving enthusiasts. The market chose crossovers, and that was that. Do you like driving? I hope you enjoy whatever this is. So that means, one by one, the fun stuff just disappeared. Stuff that I wanted as a kid, tiny hot hatches, they died. The STs, the Renault RSs, the Peugeot GTIs, whole models like the Meganes, the Fiestas, the Focus, even the Honda Civic Type R is going to disappear. You got stuff like lightweight coupes fading, affordable sports cars dwindled, stuff like the MR2 or the Celica. The quirky, character-filled cars, the ones with personality, were really pushed to the brink, and suddenly everything was a crossover or something really huge. The Ford changed the Puma from a two-door Fiesta into a crossover. Somewhere along the way, electric cars entered the picture, which isn't a bad thing on its own, but the Tesla wave brought in a whole new automotive philosophy that, in my opinion, completely destroyed motoring for enjoyment and increased prices for everybody else. We're talking about minimalist interiors, silent acceleration if you like that, and everything is controlled through a touchscreen that became bigger with every single generation, and this has been really bad for motoring because now everything has huge screens, and screens are just more expensive. And there's this huge obsessions with numbers over character. For a lot of people, it works, but for those of us who connect with the mechanical side of driving, the sound, the feeling of the driving, the connection to the road, the control you have over the car, it started to feel like the soul was being engineered out of cars, like the cars were being designed by people that didn't not only know shit about cars, they actively despised everything what a car is. Suddenly, the real world didn't have much interest in the car types that we grew up dreaming about. Cars that were about feel, not just speeds. Cars that had personalities, flaws, mechanical texture, quirks. Cars that actually taught you how to drive and taught you something new every time you drove them, like my 98 Corolla. It's still alive. And speaking of Toyotas, nowadays a Toyota Aygo has more driving feel, it has more character and connection to the road than your regular Model S Tesla with 800 horses. It is all about feeling versus numbers, and numbers feed your ego, but driving feeling feeds your soul, and that's why all of these new cars are soulless, like the driving they produce, like the footprints they leave on the roads. It's literally driving refrigerators. That's when you start really realizing that sim racing isn't just entertainment or racing anymore. It's actually preservation of car culture, history, engineering, and design. It's really the last place where all of these philosophies are still alive, all these ideas, these little machines that shaped who we are as car lovers are. They survive here long after the real world has moved on, and in my opinion, they will stay longer, and the new cars will actually be forgotten in the future, and we'll still be driving those cars that we love. When you open up Gran Turismo, you're not just picking up a car, you're actually flipping through decades of automotive history. You're looking at entire lineups that don't exist anymore. JDM icons that will never come back, European hot hatches that were killed off years ago, American muscle cars that have gone hybrid or fully electric, or crossovers and SUVs, and cars that define eras preserved in pristine digital form for you to drive and enjoy. And the older the Forza and Gran Turismo is, the sadder it's really going to get, because you go over those lists of cars, you have literal unknowns or one-offs or generations of cars that have been forgotten compared to the newer generations of cars. You have also Assetto Corsa, which is essentially the internet's biggest underground garage. If a car mattered to someone somewhere, I guarantee you someone has built it for AC. You can drive prototypes from the 80s, K-Sports cars that really never left Japan. You can drive rally monsters from the Group B or Group A areas, rare homologation specials, even cars that only exist as ideas or one-off prototypes or whatever. The level of detail is insane because these cars aren't really being made by corporations trying to hit deadlines, but by passionate people who want the cars they love to actually live forever. You know what? I don't think sim racing has really set it out to become an historical archive, but it did so first as an accident. It just happens when somebody builds these car lists for Gran Turismo or, I don't know, GT Race 07 or GTR2. But now it seems that is being done out of necessity because the real world is leaving these cars behind and sim racers are really refusing to do so. And that's what's really beautiful about this, is that these cars aren't really frozen in time and they are not in a real museum where you just ogle them. You can't really touch them, you can't go over the rope, you can just admire them from a distance. But in sim racing, what we do, we're actually driving the museum pieces. You can get behind the wheels of a 90s hot hatch and throw it through corners. You can sit inside of that Peugeot GTI in Gran Turismo 7. You can feel the Japanese coupe, you can feel the chassis and the direct drive feeling and all of that. You can feel the rotaries, cars that have been gone and banned out of existence, and we can really do that. These cars live here because we keep driving them, and when I load into a sim, no matter what it is, it's really not always about racing. Sometimes I just want to get into a simple car, maybe, a Toyota GT86. It's a car that I want to have, or something like a hot hatch, a Clio 182 or whatever. I just want to drive a circuit or drive into LA Canyons or whatever, just go to the twisties. The thing is, and I own a hot hatch myself, I have a Alfa Romeo Giulietta Quadrifoglio Verde, and as time progresses and I don't see replacements for these, I get to this idea in my head. This might be the only place I'll ever to get to drive something like this again, because I know these cars won't last in real life, and the only places where we can really drive them is inside the sim. The sad part is that the electrification of cars has hit regular cars in another way, which is the increased costs, and not because they are being more taxed, because they are. I really blame Tesla for this, because Tesla has brought a lot of technology that isn't really needed into cars, making the creation of cars nowadays even more expensive. Everything is basically plastered with the screen inside. This has an impact. I'll give you a really example. For example, you could buy on the Golf 7 generation, you could buy a Golf 7 for about 28,000 pounds. But if you are going to buy a GTI now, instead of those 28,000 pounds or 30,000 pounds, now it costs closer to 50,000 pounds because everything has a frigging screen. We don't need this stuff. But that's where the market is moving, and that's why we need to preserve the older cars. Another reason is that future generations might just grow up in a world where every car is electric or autonomous and connected, and you have really no control of anything. A world where cars are treated like fridges, appliances, where the internal combustion engine is a relic of the past, and maybe that's progress, I don't know, maybe that's necessary, but it also means that without sim racing, a whole chapter of car culture would basically disappear. And sim racing lets kids today learn what these cars were like. It lets them understand why people love them and why they mattered, why they shaped whole communities. It's not just about the cars, it's about keeping the emotions alive, the feelings, the sensations, the car culture, something that a crossover or SUV is unable to do. And it ends up being funny because people sometimes say video games, especially in sim racing, make things less real, but in this case it's kind of the opposite. As the real world moves on, sim racing becomes the only place where these cars actually stay real, where they are still respected and still appreciated and, still driven. So the next time you boot up your favorite sim, no matter what it is, no matter if you're driving a GT3 or Gran Turismo with some hot hatch or some supercar, and you start scrolling through the car lists, take a moment. Really look what is in front of you. Savor that moment. Savor the brand and the design and the sound. Don't look at what is in front of you as just content, because in reality it's a living, drivable archive of machines that define decades of passion. You can just look at rallying, for example. These are machines that the world will forget, but I think sim racing will refuse to let them die.